How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast from Wicked New England. Joined here by my co-hosts.
Anthony. John.
All right. So what we're going to do in this episode is we actually want to take you on kind of like a trip, if you will, and talk to you about our last week that we had. So basically, we were on vacation from our work, and we had 3 investigations, multiple podcasts. It was crazy. Trying to do all this in a week and get it done. But we were on vacation. We really wanted to get ahead, but definitely overwhelming as far as a shoot schedule. So just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
You know, I think all of our equipment by the end of the week was like, I'm tired, boss. Like, that's the only thing that can come to mind, right? Like, you definitely think of that meme. But, you know, day off in between, trying to charge all the batteries again, get everything back up and running, pack it back up, head back out, drive to where you need to be. And, you know, in some of these cases, we were there, like, multiple hours. I mean, one in particular, we were there 16 hours, give or take.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a long day. So we'll take you on a journey through that. Start of the week, we had a job at a house on Belmont Street. Basically, that one we were asked to investigate through a coworker at work. Basically told us about some of the things, the strange things that have happened in the house, and so we went to investigate that. After that was Wednesday. That was on Monday. After that was Wednesday, we went to Hockomock Swamp, which was very muggy, nasty, exactly what you think a swamp would be. And we were there from about, I don't know, what did you say, like 10 o'clock in the morning till about 1 at night?
Yeah, something
1 in the
like
morning,
that.
I think we got home. So, you know, a pretty long day.
Yeah.
Overall, and come home, 1 day of rest, and then Friday we had our manufacturing facility investigation, which we're going to talk about all 3 of these, definitely. And in between that, we also film more podcasts for the channel too, so hope you guys are enjoying those. But I guess starting with the first one, so we'll take you through it the way we filmed it, so Belmont House. So why don't you guys tell me, you know, what's your opinions, what's your thoughts, what did you experience? Anything at all you'd like to talk to the people about, and you know, about the night you had, and like what you think we found, maybe what could have been, you know, leaving an open mind in there too. But if you're just not convinced, that's fine too, you know. I mean, just let's spill it.
I think that there may be something there. Unfortunately, we were plagued with some technical difficulties. Still trying to learn some of the equipment that we have, and I know I had some failures on my camera, not to any paranormal aspect that might have drained batteries or anything, but it was just
sort of
misuse
echo on
my
that,
part.
folks. Sorry, not to cut
Go
you
ahead.
off. Just basically, we had 2 new cameras that night, in addition to the 3rd DV cam that we normally use. So, and coincidentally, every single one of us has a different brand of DV cam. So, I mean, sometimes that's problematic. Not all of them switch into night vision the same way. Like, for example, my camera, I can switch to night vision on the fly without having to pause, if you will.
Same with
But
mine.
on Anthony's, you actually have to pause frame, switch it to night vision, and then continue filming. So, you know,
And in
little
the
things
event
like
that you forget something like that, unfortunately, it leaves you with about 3 hours of
Yeah, we did.
black,
We did at one
dark.
point have a black hole where you'll see, because the video is actually already posted on YouTube, but in the beginning there, originally we were supposed to have a camera at the top of the steps looking down and a camera at the bottom of the steps looking up. And we were sitting on the stairwell when we were questioning, and the whole time the camera at the top of the stairwell was just pitch black because I was shooting in night vision on the one on the bottom, and we didn't realize that the other one hadn't switched over. So that was problematic. So that footage we had to get rid of. There's sound there, but other than that, nothing much else. So, you know, that's just one of the things. But
And I mean, unfortunately, we couldn't really capture some aspects of what we were physically hearing being in that house.
yeah, definitely limitations on microphones and audio. So, like, all of our cameras, if you will, came with a directional.
Microphone.
Yeah, no, there's another name for it. It's okay. Directional microphone, if you will, for lack of a better word. Another term for it that I'm forgetting. But they're not very good quality, I should say. You know, it's just like the cheap one that comes with the camera. So we will be eventually investing in better microphones as well. In the meantime, we'll have to be aware of that, stay closer to the camera when possible, and so forth, just to try and make sure you're capturing all the words we're saying, because there is actually one comment on the video that people couldn't hear what we were saying. So that's a problem for us because we really want you to be there with us in the moment as we're shooting these things. But we also want to capture any sounds that we're capturing, because at least on that job I can say for certain we heard footsteps 4 different times, rather loudly, I would say too, not soft footsteps. But we weren't able to really capture that because there was so much background noise and hiss coming out of the microphone. So even in post-production, there was only so much I could do.
John?
So I actually have some notes. So these are the main pieces of evidence that we gathered. I believe that night is when I went over these notes with you guys. So phantom footsteps, that was number 1. We all definitely heard something going on. Specifically when we were on the first floor, it sounded like it was coming from the second floor. Potential ghost orbs. So that, I believe, you had actually pointed out while you were editing, is when you sent the text to us saying,
Yeah.
we got something. You know?
There's actually a few in there. There was a few that I was able to easily debunk as dust. But there was definitely a couple that I could not do that with. You know, and I'm not a professional by any means, I'm definitely an amateur, but a couple of them had a very different, distinct look, and the way they maneuvered, it just didn't make sense, because you'd see all the other dust particles in the air, but like when you have an orb tracking smoothly and perfectly like the path of somebody else, I can't attest that to wind or a breeze blowing you know, a piece of dust so perfectly.
And that was also something that I was very upset with, because I had failed to actually hit record once I got the night vision going. And I swear when I was looking through the other screen, I thought I actually saw one of these orbs clearly through the screen, and it literally passed kind of like at an angle downward towards you, very smoothly, very crisp. Very distinctive, but unfortunately, I wasn't actually recording at that time.
I think that one actually we did catch off of John's camera,
Alright.
because he was shooting at the same time from a different angle,
Alright.
and I think he caught the same orb, because I think it was coming down from you and he kind of caught it coming this way.
Alright.
So yeah, I mean, and, you know, mistakes were made, right? It happens. We got to fumble a little bit before we start walking right. So.
And so the next one, Spirit Talker app. We definitely got a bunch of hits on that. The main thing that I think our next upgrade is going to be is for a spirit box.
Yes.
I forget the brand.
It's the SB7 that you typically see most paranormal investigation shows, but you know, there's only so much faith we could put in, you know, the Spirit Talker thing. It's definitely up in the air, especially when you start hearing repeat phrases, if you will. So sometimes I kind of definitely believe there's something to it, and other times not so much. You know, so we
The
just kind of have to
aspect
take it
where
as
you
that.
can potentially almost have a full-fledged conversation 1 minute, and then you're getting responses that
Don't
don't make
sense
any
the
sense the
But-
next.
So we want to compare that with an actual SB7 and see what kind of results we get off of that. I will say we're probably not going to permanently stop using the Spirit Talker, you know, but you're going to find as videos go on, we're going to kind of be a little bit more sporadic with, you know, hey, we're going to do this piece of equipment, you know, for this test specifically, and we might use that for something else. Maybe across the same job, if you will, but instead of just having like that one thing going, you know. But and part of that I just attribute to we're still starting out, still building kits, getting things to where we want them. You know, obviously we'd love to have a thing like, you know, a REM pod. We'd love to have a Spirit box. You know, I would love to have wireless lav mics for all the crew to wear hooked into the camera. You know what I mean? But all these things cost money, so we're slowly getting there. Obviously, this channel isn't monetized yet, so I mean we're purely doing this for the love of it at this point. So yeah, but that's the goal, to eventually get all the equipment we need. It's really gonna take it to the next level, make some good quality videos. But in the meantime, we're still gonna keep doing what we're doing. Do you have anything else you want to touch base on when it comes to Belmont?
There's actually a few more things to go over.
Right.
Number one, so I believe all three of us had seen it out of the corner of our eyes, cat ball movement.
Yeah, that one was off camera, so we weren't positively sure, which is, I think we
Why?
briefly mentioned it in the video, but that's why you don't see it. It was in the hallway from a previous session we had done earlier in the evening, and we walked away from it, and we went to a different session downstairs. But then we saw it light up, and we weren't up there, so obviously the motion, if anything, kicked it off. Wouldn't have been us, because we were actually downstairs, unless we shook the house so violently that it caused the cat ball to, which...
While sitting on a cushion.
While sitting, exactly, yeah.
Like, so that's where it gets to be a little bit difficult, because if we don't have the evidence, then it's hard to say that's good enough.
So for now,
You
we'll
know?
say that's weird, but we won't definitively say that that definitely was something.
Right, and just a little insight into my notes. Whenever there's something that we don't have evidence for, but we might have experienced, I typically put potential, so as to say, potentially this happened, but we don't have evidence of it.
We
can't
would
show
love
you.
to be able to
So,
prove it, until we can actually have definitive evidence to prove it. It's just going to be potential. I agree with John on that aspect.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to bring up in regards to the Belmont House, so I don't have any other experience to compare it with from any other time I've tried to do this, but that was the first time I've asked for a spirit to touch me, if you will, to reach out and grab my hand. And when I was sitting on the steps, which that's pretty much the end of the video, actually, is that portion of the night. And I'm sitting on the steps at the bottom of the stairwell. I hold out my hand, and I ask for the spirit to touch my hand. And at that very moment, which so it could just be a strange coincidence, you know what I mean? But at that very moment, two fingers went just like a shock, almost like a static shock, and it traveled up my arm. And then those fingers and like the whole bottom part of my forearm went like almost like a numb, like a cold numbness, like pins and needles is probably the most accurate thing, but to happen at exactly the moment when I'm asking a spirit to touch my hand, it's like, and obviously you folks can't experience that. You can't, you could say I'm BSing or whatever, I'm telling you I'm not. That really happened, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that was definitively a spirit.
And at one point in time, I believe on the third floor, I had done the same thing, but I never said what happened. And I hope, I can't recall it
You
from the
can
video.
hear you saying that's weird, but
Yeah,
you don't actually
but
say.
did you guys catch me like making fists with my hands?
Yeah, which is what I was
Because I
doing
was
too,
trying
'cause
to-
I started to kind of
I was trying to, almost like my hand fell asleep. I was feeling that pins and needles. It was the same exact aspects. Whether or not we were actually physically touched, it's hard to say. But yeah, that was a very interesting and strange experience. And
Now,
I kind of got chills when you were explaining it to us afterwards.
it's funny you actually bring that up. Those were the two next things on the list. But another note about when you had been touched on the stairwell, you brought up that you felt chills at the same exact time,
Yes.
right down your back. And the way you described
Almost like
it
somebody
was-
dropped an ice cube at the small of my back, my neck, and it just went right down my back.
and that is
Which
the way you
was
described it
very
that night.
freaky, because as I said that's when you kind of mentioned this,
The
what was
tingliness,
going
yeah.
on.
So those are the main key takeaways, if you will, that we had that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in regards to that, most of it I would say is potential because there's no
Yes.
full evidence.
Sure.
However, the one thing that I wish we had caught is those footsteps.
Me
And
too.
that's
It
all
kills
because of
me
the-
that you guys
the
can't
The
hear it.
only way I think we could have done that, because we actually do have the voice recorders,
My
is if we
EVP
would have
recorder
left
was
those.
No, it was running. My EVP recorder was running on the null post while we were down on that bench.
I was wondering whether or not we should have left one of them sitting on the floor next to the capitals, just
Oh,
running.
Maybe.
Maybe different locations as things are going on. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's something to note for next time. I mean, the next investigation we do, these are things that we plan on fixing, doing better. Because at the end of the day, we're still very new,
Oh yeah.
I'm so new, in fact, that was our first ever like night shoot where we went out and like set up in a house and like really did it. You know, before that, it's just been like little exploration things. You know, kind of dipping the toe in the water. But this is our first legitimate.
And it was also a rough
investigation.
week to do all that stuff too.
Oh yeah.
But as far as the house itself goes, gorgeous house.
Oh, fantastic.
Definitely a historical building. If you're into architecture, it is very interesting walking around that place.
Oh.
All the craftsmanship, the woodworking, the stained glass.
Coffered ceiling.
Oh yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
So I mean,
That's something to say on its own. It was a beautiful house. I wish I could own it. As I believe I told you guys about 50 million times that night, I wish I could own it because it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. If you're fine with having an extra roommate that doesn't pay rent and walks around in the middle of the night.
a
perfect
little
house for you.
heavy on their feet.
But
Well,
that's
and I think if I want to say like, so my biggest disappointment overall from that one, of all the things to be disappointed about, we never smelled the rosewater perfume.
No, we didn't.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that was gonna really trip me out. Like if we got a scent of that or a whiff of that, you know. But that's something we didn't come across. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. You know?
But we were told that happens on very rare occasions, and they hadn't had that happen. If I'm not
Couple of
mistaken,
years.
in a good couple of years, they haven't had it. So
Yeah.
so I mean, for us to be able to experience that was a long shot.
yeah.
But it was a long shot that I really wish
Yeah.
Oh,
carried
absolutely.
through.
And once
The
again,
only
that's something
downside
you can't
is
film, but I mean,
that's something
it's-
exactly you can't film that. So it's like to present it, we can say potentially this is what happened because we all smelt it, but we can't. There's no such thing as smell-o-vision, at least not yet.
whoever smelled it dealt it.
And I did not wear my rose perfume.
Whoever denied it supplied it. All right, so moving on. So that was Monday, you know, and moving into Wednesday, we were going to tackle Hockomock Swamp. So I'm a little angry about this one, so I'm going to air some grievances right off the bat. Okay, frickin' bugs. Okay, so the original trail that I picked and the locations within the swamp that I wanted to film at specifically were chosen because they had previous events that have happened there in those spots. Okay, so moving forward, what the hell was the damn thing called? It was
Was it a
Deer flies.
deer fly?
Okay, so we drive our car. Anthony's driving, black SUV. We get down to the gate of the place we actually wanted to start hiking at, and we literally get swarmed by thousands of deer flies, and I mean thousands. I'm not saying
There
like,
was
oh,
no
yeah,
way we were getting
there
out
was
of the
a couple
car.
of hundred. They covered the windows. It was that ridiculous.
All you could hear, so I was sitting
You could hear buzzing
Passenger
through the glass.
side.
You
above
through the glass,
AC.
yeah.
I was sitting passenger side back seat. All I could hear was they just kept trying and trying and trying to get into the car to attack us.
So we kind of had to abandon that particular location.
Yeah.
But we're not
very-
quitters, so we weren't going to run away and come back to town.
Especially with Hockomock Swamp being, what, 14,900
Something
square
like that. It's huge.
miles or something like
Actually,
that?
I have it in
You've
my notes
actually
here.
got the notes. We're going
I
to
have the
refer to
actual
the notes right now.
Square footage here. So
Told you I'd make you look at your notes.
clearly, right? Trying to wing this whole thing, not laying around. 16,950 square foot swamp nestled in the Bridgewater Triangle. So we're not quitting. We're going back. So we find another path. Okay.
Actually, should we tell the story of how long it took us to get to that path due to the other strange things going on?
Okay. So I won't say that this is what happened, but it almost seemed like somebody didn't want us to go to that damn swamp. So the GPS kept acting funny and recalculating when it shouldn't have recalculated.
Funny is a nice way to put it. By the
Trying
way.
to go to the same exact location, but having us jump 2 to 3 exits down a highway and then loop us around to go back. And this actually happened on
And
two different GPSs.
The funny part was we actually ended up on the original road we were on, and it just kind of went around. So all of that for nothing, and then we finally shut the GPS off and we just went our own way. We actually got there, so that was problematic to say the least.
And we ended up doing the Hockomock loop.
Yeah, that was the Hockomock path for sure, loop. Odyssey. It was like the SS Minnow, folks. 3-hour tour, you know what I mean? So we get to Hockomock Swamp and we go to the main, I guess, walkway or whatever that they have, trail if you will. It's like 2-mile loop. So we go check it out during the daytime. I shut it on the GoPro during the day hours so you can actually see the path we'd be walking that night and so forth. Got a couple of cool spots. There's like a old foundation of which we later found out from another pedestrian while we were waiting for it to get dark, that it belonged to a chicken farmer, which I thought was interesting. Turkey farmer, sorry.
Turkey.
My bad. Turkey farmer. Which I found was interesting. It was an old concrete pad, but you could actually get down in there and look in the basement. It was an old foundation. But the entrance was just grown over with trees and so forth and whatnot. So, you know, there was that. A couple other places where we heard some weird sounds while we were walking around during the day. You know, really made me want to go back there at night. And now that I think about it, too, we'll refer back to that. So where I heard the noises in the day, or where we saw something else at night. But, yeah, nighttime came. We did the walk. It was that very swampy, hot, humid, miserable. Everything sticking to you like it's an extra piece of skin.
Yep.
You know, gotta love it. You know, even though it's New England, it still gets hot, right? Bugs, mosquitoes, you know, all that good stuff. You're trying to get EVP. You're trying to like, you know, use the spirit talker. You're trying to investigate and just. But then out of nowhere, you get a silence that's
Unlike anything.
deafening. Really,
That was kind of this last location we went to.
Yeah, it's just creepy, where it's just quiet. You don't even hear the mosquitoes anymore. You don't hear the crickets. You don't hear the whatever. I don't think there was cicadas, but they sounded kind of similar anyway, and like the heat bugs almost that you get in Florida. But yeah, it was creepy. It just got dead silent. Now, I can't really remember because I didn't really take a lot of notes after I left that job. I was pretty much done after like the 17 hours, 16 hours, and I just vegged out in the air conditioning on the way back home. But I don't remember really capturing much as far as the EVP and stuff.
There was EMF activity.
Yeah.
I will say that. EVP was potential.
I mean, the audio files, I scrubbed
You
them.
know,
I know you guys scrubbed them too. I didn't catch much on there. And like usually I'll catch something that makes me want to, okay, I'm going to go back over this segment of the EVP and really try to brighten up the spots.
Whenever I go through the
They just-
EVP at home to review it, I've literally got earbuds in my ears, and I'm like covering just to make sure I'm exactly hearing what I'm hearing. And I scrubbed through that whole thing. I didn't catch anything on EVP.
Me neither.
Can I talk about probably the scariest experience for the three of us that night?
Oh, when we were,
Alright.
when we were
I
just
would
about
really
backing?
like to-
I'll,
More about that.
I'll let him take that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So imagine this, if you will. We are on the path back to the car. We're close enough that we're like, all right, let's call it a. Let's
Yeah.
wrap things up.
Uh-huh.
Kill the camera.
Andrew says, all right, this has been Wicked New England. Off to the next spot. Shuts down the camera. All I hear from my left is, we're being watched.
Yeah, that was me.
In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, there's someone here. This is gonna get into a little bit of a spooky situation.
And then I had to repeat myself, guys, we gotta go. We're being watched.
I look where that man right there is shining his flashlight. All I see is two yellow eyes.
And you can vaguely make
So
out
then
kind of the
I click-
silhouette of a head.
My flashlight on, and to realize it was 6 eyes, 3 sets. And I'm like, okay, well, there's coyotes, it's New England, right? But the distance apart between the eyes are just a little bit too much to be a coyote's head.
Now you have to also think, the tall grass that these things are standing in had to have been at least
4 feet.
4
Yeah.
feet. At least.
I would definitely say those had to be wolves. On my own aspects, I mean,
They could be coyotes, but they are some pretty big coyotes.
They're the predator coyotes because they're like mongoloid in size. We'll say.
let me
that.
grab some notes because
So,
if
unless
I'm not
them
mistaken,
coyotes
I
are
had
taking
written something down about
performance-enhancing
that.
drugs, it's probably not a coyote.
So what we did was we had one person with a flashlight showing where we're going. The next person with a flashlight pointing off into the distance to make sure, hey, nothing's coming at us from the bushes. Then we had one person
With a flashlight to the rear.
with a flashlight to the rear to make sure nothing's going to pounce on us from behind us.
And we hightailed it out of there. I mean, I told the guys, just get in, we'll get, and that's it.
Well, we'll
going. Get in, we lock the doors.
I'm sweeping to the side, and I see another set of eyes immediately duck down as soon as it sees the flashlight. So we're like, all right, cool, they're following. We keep going. I shine again, another set of eyes, just watching, just chilling out, having a great time, having a better time than us.
Yeah, better time than us.
Here we are, trying to fight off mosquitoes. We're being watched. They're probably sitting there laughing at us.
They're not hyenas, they don't cackle.
Yeah, internal.
Saw Lion King too many times as a kid.
Now, I did actually do a little bit of research on this for difference between coyote and wolves. Coyotes stand between 21 to 24 inches tall and up to 4.5 feet in length. They can weigh between 15 to 50 pounds. A wolf can stand between 26 to 32 inches tall and up to 4.5 to 6.5 feet in length. And they can weigh between, according to Google, which again I don't really trust too much on these specs, but 70 to 150 pounds.
No, I believe
Now,
that because
I do believe
there's
in
different
most
species
of that.
wolf too. So
But at the same time, at the height of, like John said, at the height of where their head was to the tall grass that we were in, I would definitely lean more towards a wolf, especially the size of the silhouette of their head. And we're talking, they were probably at least 60 to 80 yards across the field.
yeah, I mean I can attest to the fact too that I really don't give a damn if it was a coyote or a wolf. I wasn't looking for a pet that night, and I don't think they were the domestic type to take home.
No.
So, you know, at some point self-preservation kind of kicks in, right?
I think they just
Now, we did have
Are we looking for ghosts or are we playing Ranger Rick?
some tools on us, but at the same time,
Every single one of us
if
had a machete, but
given the
150-pound
opportunity, if given the opportunity to run, you run. Especially at that case where I felt we were more outnumbered, where it was just the three of us.
we didn't run.
And we could at
we
least,
walked very briskly.
yes.
Exactly.
We were composed.
Exactly.
Especially where we were three of us versus maybe potentially 4 to 6 of them, maybe, because they did keep ducking down. I can contest to, at one point in time, 3 full sets of eyes in one direction, and as I glanced over, there was an extra set a little ways ahead of them. So I can contest to get at least 4, guaranteed. Different
I saw
sets
at
of
least
eyes.
5
So
as we walked.
how many of them were ducking down, maybe doing a little bit of a trot, because they were definitely following us, but yeah, that was a little spooky.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was an interesting night. And then, so after that, we're not done yet, though. But wait, there's more.
This is why we had
Billy
an
Mays.
18-hour day.
So,
R.I.P. Billy.
to rewind it a little bit, while we're waiting for it to get dark before we headed in there into the thicket, this random dude comes up. He's with his dog. I guess they go raccoon hunting out there all the time. And he's telling us
Super
about...
nice guy, by the way.
Yeah, awesome
And this
guy.
actually, this was before we
Before we
did the
headed in.
hike
Yeah.
for where we got the wolf,
Yeah.
the dogs at the end.
Yep. So we're winding a little bit there, but we're waiting for it to get dark so we can go in. And he's telling us stories about, hey, the part of Hockomock that I wanted to go, or at least a piece of it. And you know, stories of UFOs, stories of Bigfoot, stories of other friends seeing freaky things in the woods. You know, so after our wolf experience, we're like, okay, I'm a little wired now. You know, just face death. Feel a little, yeah, all right, we're pumped up. Hey, let's hit up the other part of the swamp, right? Because we're gluttons for punishment.
Now, mind you, the one way has the most sightings was the first one we wanted to try to go to, so we were trying to avoid going back there. At least right now, we do want to go back there when it's maybe a
when
little
the deer
bit...
flies are dead.
Yeah.
Or at least dormant.
Or at least dormant. But the individual that we ran into mentioned a different other area for us to try,
Pretty
Yeah.
much the other end of where we were supposed to start. Where we were trying to start.
which I think was what, maybe
There's a-
14 miles?
Yeah, there's like a utility shed basically as the marker. and it heads into like a causeway. Basically, the path runs down. There's water on both sides of the path, and there's only one way in, one way out. So that's the portion we went to. So I mean, we walked probably a good, I guess, I want to say probably 3/4 of a mile, maybe.
Yeah.
And we're getting weird sounds and stuff, and like no EVP. Pulled out the recorder a couple of times, but at that point too, same thing. Weird wildlife starts kind of encroaching on what's going on, and that's when we're hit with that bullet of silence again, where it was just okay. It was noisy as hell the whole walk up this 3/4 of a
And
mile.
out of nowhere, it just got dead
Yeah.
silence.
Nothing.
Yeah,
You
it was-
couldn't hear anything but us talking. You could actually hear us breathing, which was like there is no sound whatsoever going on around us. So we kind of hightailed it out of there at another brisk walk out of the Hockomock Swamp.
just in time to come out of the tall grass, and all of a sudden to hear I don't know how many, I can't tell you that. This was definitely
A
caught on
lot
the
of-
video, so this will be in the video. But there is I want to say probably at least 10 to 15, I'm guessing coyotes, howling and like cackling, if you will, probably taking down a piece of prey or something, who knows.
Personally,
But-
I think they were complaining to one another because we were their dinner and we just walked away. But at the same time, you will hear these guys. You should be able to hear these guys.
that's
in
on
the video.
camera. No, that
That is on camera.
that
You can
comes
hear
through.
the howling. You can hear. They start snarling at something. I don't know what they might have caught, but
John's
yeah.
like, I think we should leave.
Yeah, at that point I was fully done dealing with nature.
And listen, when it gets dead silence, and at the same time, you kind of almost have a feeling that you're being watched.
Mm.
I bet you that'll be in the video.
That was kind of like.
Oh, you'll hear it go quiet.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
You'll hear it go quiet.
I've watched the footage at least 7 times now. Editing is fun. But then that leads us after that to back home, and then we have our next gig on Friday. So it's funny because the next gig is the third one we shot that is actually supposed to be. It was the first one we planned, and originally was the only one we actually planned to shoot that whole week, to be honest. And that was this manufacturing facility, this is a big place, big factory. So we're like pretty psyched about that. So we gear up, charge up, and we get out there, So I don't know, you guys, why don't you take over for a little bit?
I think I'd like you to start just because I know I was the one who got the least amount.
I walked over to the area that I was in. Again, forgetting that my camera doesn't switch over to night vision and not wanting to stop the video, I kept recording in a couple of dark areas. We did not have any control of power sources for lights, except for a few areas we could have flipped the switch. I know I could have flipped the switch
That's
in the
worth
particular
noting.
room.
So even though we shot this at night, as we would want to, the building had automatic lights on the factory floor. So there wasn't a lot we could do about that. So we were going to have to shoot with lights on, if you will. But that doesn't mean that we didn't have any experiences. But before we get into individually what happened, I guess just a little bit of backstory on the different.
Yeah,
you know
you
what I mean?
did.
So just to touch base, so this factory claims of weird phantom sounds such as a forklift, sounds of babies crying, which is a weird thing for factory, obviously. Orbs and not orbs, but mist captured on a security camera. But what made that intriguing to me was the mist that was caught in the camera, which I explained this in the video as well. It actually kind of came up the steps, hung out for a while over about, I think it was like a half-hour period, then went back down the steps to where it was, in a hallway where there's no air vents, no pipes like that, anything that could really produce a vapor. You know what I mean? So to move in that manner and actually see it with my own 2 eyes on security camera, that was a little weird. So that made me want to investigate. And then there actually had been some natural deaths in the bathroom of all places. And so John was going to investigate that. He likes the dirty jobs. So I'll let Anthony take over
I
from here,
actually
though.
did sign up for that, by the way. They didn't try to convince me. I wanted to go to the place.
He literally
where
jumped
someone
in
died.
full, ready to do it.
You're just lucky that you did it willingly, because I would have forced you anyway.
Oh, right. As if you weren't the one.
Well, the shit model.
All right, back again, just to catch them off guard, because it's more fun when you do it this way. So the camera overheated, yay, go me, GoPro, woohoo! No cross ventilation here, so the GoPro overheated in the media mod. Gotta love it. Might start shooting these with my camcorder, or who knows, maybe my webcam and our big boy microphone pretty soon. But either that, or we'll just have to find a cold place to go. We'll shoot in the meat locker. Hey,
That's the move.
There we go.
I'm all
podcast
for
from the
it.
meat locker, right?
We can have our parkas on.
Parkas.
Let's do it.
I'm a polar bear, folks. It doesn't matter. Hey, we'll take it down the battleship, right? We'll do it by the water.
There we go.
Walking podcast. We'll just I'll have the selfie stick. We'll go. Anyway, so Anthony's going to continue here, telling you a little bit about splitting up and going our separate ways in the factory, and then what the three of us saw.
Now, my designated area was to basically investigate the sound of the phantom forklift.
And the baby cry.
And the baby crying. I had actually two different aspects to look at it. Prior to any of that, though, we did do a whole walkthrough, all the areas, quick investigation. We did.
Which you'll see in the video too. As a team, and that's kind of the way we're going to do it, I think, is that seems to be a good format for us. And we thought about it, and we're going to do a group walk around. We'll check out all the areas together, each individually tackle a different area, and then we'll meet back up wherever we had the most activity as a group and kind of close it out from there.
And we've also investigated, now I can't remember if we actually did video on the front office aspect.
No, not
No?
really.
Because there was a couple of things over there that kind of was going on.
The phantom flush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Random toilets.
Don't mean the joke.
As crazy as it sounds, when nobody's in the building and toilets are on sensors and they're flushing by themselves, and
What
you are
tripped the
told and you are told that the sensors have been replaced multiple times, we don't know what's going on, and you actually physically hear the toilet flush, you kind of want to check it out. So we did do that. But yeah, my designated area when we finally broke up was the back area and what would be like their sheet metal preparation area, where they also did some painting, the back paint room. And I wasn't really getting anything. Matter of fact, I believe at one point in time I shut off the recorder and actually started holding the recorder to the microphone of the camera, just to try to review everything going on. And that's when basically I vaguely heard something. We were walking around with two-way radios. Now, I understand that some things can be said about having a radio on you. My understanding, though, is you're only going to have interference as long as you're not messing around with it.
And I can verify that with my EMF detector because I did test that as well while holding the button down and then while having it away, and the EMF interference went completely to nothing as soon as I put my walkie away. I kept it clipped on my back, like belt loop, if you will.
Now, these guys were chatting away. I had totally forgot to turn the volume up to a louder level. In the area of the building that I was in, it was actually a lot louder than I realized when you're in there for that long, over in that area for that long. I also had some interference with alarms going off on some of the machinery that we couldn't shut off. We had fans blowing. It was just a loud environment, definitely noisy. So I was trying to get whatever could have possibly popped up on the recorder, actually let everybody hear it on the video. And that's when I vaguely heard something. I cranked the volume up, and you guys were you had basically called it quits because you had gotten nothing. And I think you called out to me like, Anthony, how you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm on my way. I just basically grabbed, let's go for a walk, guys. And we headed over to where we basically found some
Activity
more
on the group
activity
walk,
on
yeah.
the group walk.
So just to, I guess, backtrack from that a little bit. So we'll leave it at that. So we all met back up for the group bit of it. So, John, why don't you tell us about the bathrooms?
So, I'm gonna be honest here.
Were you touched?
Surprisingly, no.
the letdown.
The only weird thing that happened was going into the bathroom. I mean, I had a 50% charge on my watch, so I set an alarm. So actually, when I gave that call to call it quits, that was because our time was up. We had said, I believe, what,
30
35
minutes?
About 35,
About 35 minutes. I said,
30,
like,
35
go,
minutes.
go to your individual spots for about a half hour. Let's radio back after that. If somebody has something, we'll go from there.
That was just because our time was up. When I went to check if our time was up, my watch was now dead after setting an alarm. Now, my watch lasts 4 days if I don't charge it, roughly.
Yeah, standby time on a watch is typically.
You know, it lasts a while, and anyone who has a Fitbit or Apple Watch can attest to that. For me, I have a Fitbit. It lasts about 4 days, and I mean, granted, I charge it pretty regularly. At 50%, there was no reason for it to just die, and even when I put it on the charger, it needed to charge for a while before it was ready. So that was the only really weird thing that happened. The only other weird thing besides that is a random dude going and just hanging out in the bathroom alone, waiting for an invisible man to come in and talk to him. So, you know,
So many things I could be saying right now, but I'm just going to bite my tongue on.
but, you know, overall, I really didn't get any evidence in there. I tried using all of my equipment. I set up the cat balls. You'll see in the video. But yeah, that was my experience, at least for my solo piece. of
Sitting
that
alone in the bathroom as you do, I guess.
And you know, it was a very relaxing experience, I guess.
Okay. So for me, I walked away, went to the stairwell, set up my camera on the tripod, wide angle, that way you guys can see me talking, investigating, using the Spirit Talker. I was also doing EVP, and I also had cat balls set up in a triangle formation underneath the stairs. Almost immediately upon sitting down, I started getting hits on the Spirit Talker. And they made sense, which was, you know, but it was a little off-putting because it was talking about, like, evil things and so forth and so on. So when you first sit down and it's the first thing you hear, okay, what? Like, you know, I'm sitting here looking at this dark, black under stairwell. You can't see what's coming. So like, crap. You know, if there really is something here, like underneath these steps, I'm going to be, you know, in a bad position because I'm going to have to scramble to get back up these stairs. But I sat there for about a good 15 minutes having a legitimate conversation. And then it said, I have to go. Our time is up. Something along those lines. I can't remember the exact words. They're in the video. You'll see them. But, and then I waited about 5 minutes and nothing came back. So I was like, all right, well, maybe they just said their piece and moved on, you know. So that's when I radioed these two knuckleheads, and I was like, hey guys, it's dead air here. So let's meet back up in that portion of the factory where we were getting some hits on the group walk.
Now, it is also important to note during the group walks, I don't believe the video cameras caught it, but all three of us did hear the phantom forklift.
Yeah, at various points we all did hear something. Now, you know, if you have manufacturing experience, you'll know what an electric forklift sounds like. Completely different than an internal combustion one. You're not going to have that same like motor revving and so forth. It's more of like a...
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of a whine, almost.
Kind of like when you hear a Tesla come off from the stoplight. It's pretty similar, you know. That's literally it. It's an electric motor, right? And no exhaust or nothing like that. But that's what it sounds like. And like we kept hearing it at various spots. And I did walk around and we checked out other machines that would make similar type noises.
Yeah.
And they weren't running. So I can honestly say that wasn't the machines, like, you know, and debunk it that way. The machines weren't on. So the only thing on in this place was the lights.
Yeah.
But I mean,
wanna
other
continue.
than that,
So yeah, like I guess just to continue then, we used the Spirit Talker and whatnot in a little experiment with the cat balls in that station, and we got a lot of hits, almost too convoluted, I would say, whereas some things went along in series and some things didn't really quite do that. So it's like Are we getting just randomness for the sake of randomness? Does it make sense and we're just not seeing the bigger picture? You know, but there was a couple of times when I gotta admit, like, we started hearing a sound, like, in the far corner on the left side, and then in the front middle, and then in the right middle. It was almost like there was loud bangs happening, like, all around us at a distance, like surrounding us, if you will, which was a little weird. Could never figure out what that was either, you know.
At one point in time, I actually separated, and for the hell of it, I think I just grabbed the camera and started recording, just to like cover our own butts. If something is going on and you guys are getting something, I'm on camera. It's not me. This is what I'm doing. And I mean, I believe I was walking around. I think I was with the Spirit Talker.
You might have been. I saw you.
I had walked down. I had walked down to another area where we initially got hit a real big hit with the EMF, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I kind of walked down there, did my own little thing, and then I came back up to them. And it was shortly thereafter that we were like, all right, things have really dramatically slowed down. We were still hearing the banging sounds. Still not quite sure what those banging sounds are or were.
Yeah, when you hear a banging sound in an empty place in the middle of the night, it's not really creepy by itself. When you hear it in succession and the sound travels around you in a circle, that's creepy. Okay, so that's a little bit more deliberate. Like, okay, something's, what's up, you know? And we're talking a far apart enough distance where, like, even if somebody, let's say, had snuck into this factory while we're there or something like that, wanted to mess with us, they'd all have to, in succession, be in sync.
Yeah.
You know, on opposite ends of the building all at once, like, and doing it perfectly. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So, after that, once again, we had dead air for a little bit. I think we waited about another 15, 20 minutes after having about an hour-long kind of session there, and we decided to pack it in. So we start heading back to get our gear and pack up, and that's when we were about to leave, where Anthony saw, if you watched the last episode, you're going to hear him talk a little bit about shadow people, which why don't you pick up from here and just kind of just re-go over that again real quick.
Again, we were leaving. I believe John was in the lead. You were just a little bit behind me. And I had glanced over because I thought I saw something down the aisleway at the end. And I literally just like kind of froze in place. I was just like locked on, laser focus, kind of like asking myself, am I really seeing this? And I'm like, I don't want to look away to try to grab a camera, or you want to try to document it, but it's like reality check. By the time you grab a camera and turn it on and aim, it's already gone. So I'm like looking and whatnot. As it was moving across, it stopped at one point. I felt like it looked right at me, almost like it took a deep look into my soul, if you would. And yeah, it gave me some shivers. It kind of threw me for a loop. A wave of emotion that I still can't describe. And yeah, that's when I decided, I was like, these guys were trying to get information out of me of what's going on, and I'm like, yeah, good night. See you guys. We're leaving. You stay here. We're getting out of here. We're done for the night. You have a good night. And I told them when we had left, but yeah, that's still a little freaky looking back at it.
Yeah, I mean, that was at the point in the night where, for me anyway, I mean, I was tired.
We were all tired.
We just got through the week.
It was a long week.
You know.
All right, so brass tacks. Belmont Street. Something there, yes or no? Okay. I'll say yes.
For me, it's a maybe.
For Belmont, I'll say yes.
I'll say yes.
Hockomock.
A lot of nature. A lot of nature.
I'm gonna agree with John on this one only because I didn't have any experiences that night other than man versus wild stuff. So does that mean there's nothing there? Of course not. There's so much of that swamp we have not encountered yet, and we will. That's going to be a recurring theme with us, I think. We definitely all want to go back. Mm-hmm. So I would anticipate at least 2 or 3 more videos there, to be honest. I'm definitely ready to do it. So I won't say definitively yes or no. I will just say for now, haven't discovered enough of it to make a decision. All right, the factory, yay or nay? Brass tacks.
For me, I'm gonna have to. After thinking about it, I'm gonna have to say no. I just, for me, I didn't really experience enough to say a definitive yes. At least at Belmont, there was enough potential where I was like, okay, maybe that would be a good, maybe return to at some point eventually down the line. But for the manufacturing facility, I just couldn't. You know, I didn't get enough.
So from my personal experiences there, I would say it was unsettling. At least the portion where I was on my own in that stairwell, based on what I heard and what was being talked about. But I don't have concrete proof. It's unsettling, but I can't 100% say that like that conversation alone is enough to justify. It's gotta be. I mean, if I had to go with my gut though, not based on fact, just feel, I think there's something there. And that's where I will leave that. That's a gut feeling. That's not backed by science in any way or even proof. That's just what I felt about the location.
And that's a fair opinion. I mean, for me, I also know, from my standpoint, I do have somewhat high standards when it comes to it. I am the most skeptic.
He didn't have the highest standards when he chose to hang out with me, but he's got high standards about this.
That's wild. No, I mean, for me, I know I'm the most skeptic in the group. I know I want more evidence before having a definitive answer.
But I've said this before, that's good for us, because
You know?
by having a skeptic in the group, or at least a partial skeptic, we'll say, because you're skeptic but you're open-minded,
Right.
I will say.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's a good thing for us. You know what I mean? If two of us are constantly drinking the Kool-Aid, you know, who's going to get us back to dry land? You know what I mean?
And I mean, at the end of the day, I still get excited whenever we get hits. It's more so in the afterthoughts where I start thinking, okay, we got these hits, but when I asked questions that related to the actual events that happened here, what happened? What happened as we're going?
But to echo on that too, though, just to kind of keep this back and forth going a little bit, to be fair, we couldn't get a real good backstory on that building.
That is fair. That is fair.
So how do we know we're asking the right questions when you can't get all the facts about the individuals involved?
And that's a fair thing. I think I'm also
Maybe
a little
the
bit more
responses
biased because while I was sitting in that bathroom, I had hits on nothing.
Because think about it this
You
way.
know?
Sometimes maybe going in blind and just asking generic questions and seeing what you get back. Then we should take that research and honestly go and see if any of it tracks. Which maybe we didn't think about looking at it from the back end like that. Maybe that's something we should do.
You know, and I would be fully on board because at the end of the day, the whole point of gathering evidence is to create proof, right? If there's no evidence, there's no proof. And if there's no proof, there's not much of an argument. So that being said, I mean, it would make me very happy to gather evidence, to create proof, you know? And with that, that's why I'm open-minded. Because anytime we get that little jump in the EMF, anytime we start seeing ghost orbs appear, that gets me excited because, hey, we have something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see where this can snowball to.
As far as I'm concerned, I understand what Andrew's saying as far as that gut feeling goes. I would definitely say I agree with that. Being able to prove anything, I know there is no way of us physically proving that based off of what we've got.
I wish I would have seen the shadow figure.
Too.
I, unfortunately, because I am the only person that saw it, it kind of makes me feel like I'm subject to a lot of scrutiny. And at the same token, I do think that there is something there, though. I can't say for certain that it's demonic. I can't say if it's nice or, for all I know, they were just pissed off because we were just bothering them when they wanted to do their thing on their time of the day where, hey, this is our show at this hour. So I mean, for all I know, we know it was that case. I can tell you, I believe that there is good potential of anybody actually seeing anything. It would probably be me. Whether or not I can catch it on video, I don't know. I only say that because in the group I've explained in one of our travel expeditions that we've done, which I believe is already out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is out. I had my own ghostly encounter back at Fort Phoenix a good couple of years ago, probably back in 1999, maybe 2000. So that's very interesting, and I forget what you titled it, so these guys can go
So
back.
that
and
one's
look at
the Wicked New England Road Trip. So if you're looking for a good short video, it actually only clocks out at about 17 minutes, but we take you on a nice tour around a lot of the haunted locations in New England, specifically southeastern Mass. So definitely one worth watching, I would say. We're going to be doing some follow-ups on those as well to get you to some more locations. And actually, one thing worth mentioning too about that video is so we concluded with a trip to Oak Grove Cemetery, which we went to show Lizzie Borden's grave, was the reason for the trip. But while we were there, we were actually able to pay homage to the original owner of the Belmont House, Mr. Cole.
Yes.
So we have a little bit of his gravesite as well, which I'll actually be putting in another video, which will show that. So.
But I mean, as far as the facility, I would say definite for me. And I'm only basing that because I know I saw something. What I saw, I still don't know.
So as the song says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So anything else we want to close with? Any other final thoughts about the week of hell with shooting? I mean, I think guerrilla filming might be the best term for it.
Yeah, definitely.
You're definitely set up on the run there. I mean, very primitive in all locations, and just kind of, we literally winged it.
It was definitely a unique experience, especially when we're still trying to get going with this whole thing.
We just really want to get you content, so we're trying to get out there, investigate as many places as we can.
Which unfortunately does struggle a little bit because we do all have day jobs.
It's also like
So-
95 degrees right now, so you know,
Yeah,
you don't
it's
drop a heat
humid.
stroke.
It's
Nothing like investigating in the middle of a swamp when it's like 95. Like, ah.
I feel like a lot of the audio files are just going to be us going, dang.
No, it's gonna be me going, water. So, anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Like I said, like and subscribe, as I always mention. Shoot us a comment, even if it's something negative, we'll listen. You know, we believe in constructive criticism and feedback, so, but even if it's not constructive, or you're just looking for an argument, you know, sometimes I'm bored on a Friday night, we'll do that too. So, yeah, let me know what you're thinking. You know, always, for sure. That was my dog barking, in case you heard that. Damn dog. Anyway, catch you guys on the next one, and have a great night.
Bye, guys.
take it easy.